Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So yesterday we read some of the beginning verses that Krishna spoke, and we'll continue. First, I'd like to speak a little bit about the process of self-realization and what we mean by self-realization. I want to talk about the word self and the word realization. What does it mean to realize something? To realize something is different from creating something. It's different from achieving something. So when we connect the idea of the self, which is our innermost essence, our true identity, our true nature, that is something that is not created or achieved. It is something that already is. Who we are is already complete. And so spiritual life is not a process of creation. It's a process of discovery. And more than discovery, it's a process of engagement. Yesterday we were talking about the idea that it's not enough to be eternal. What do we do with our eternal time and our eternal life? Once you recognize that you are eternal, you can choose what you'd like to do. If you read, they have the idea of again we were talking about the Buddha. And the idea is that he talks about this, the middle path. Once you recognize that the spirit, the essence is eternal, then you can choose what to do with your eternal life. And so people first try to enjoy. We think, okay, now I can experience pleasure according to what I know of as pleasure through the senses. But after some time, eventually you'll get, it's not that you get satisfied by this. It's said no amount of ghee can put out, the fire of lust is always increasing the more you put fuel into that fire. But at the same time, you'll recognize at a certain point that it is not giving you full satisfaction, and so you'll seek other means. And if you look at the planetary systems as the exterior manifestation of the interior life of the soul, then you can see, first we go to the heavenly planets for higher pleasures, but based on the senses. I want to enjoy touch, taste, feel, sight, sound, smell. I want to enjoy things. And so I try to enjoy on this earth realm. And I exhaust myself in that pursuit, and I'm not satisfied. So I try to enjoy on a higher level, the subtle senses, and purified enjoyment, more refined enjoyment. Like they say, we have gur, and then you refine it, and you can refine it down to sugar candy. So the heavenly enjoyment is refined enjoyment that you can find in this world. Sense pleasure through the tongue, the sex life, and so forth. We want to refine our enjoyment and enjoy. But once you realize that that also is not giving satisfaction to yourself, then you can go beyond that. Why? We have eternal time to discover what is the best use of our time. And so we go higher, and then we go to the abodes of yoga, tapa, loka, and we enjoy higher bliss, yogananda, the bliss of identifying with the absolute and tapping into the power of everything around us, because once we identify with it, the barriers between us and the world start to become thinner. Yogis can access great powers, and they experience the bliss through that, but yet still that does not give satisfaction. And so we go higher and higher and higher through the different worlds outside and the worlds within. Higher and higher and higher, we're searching for pleasure. We're searching for happiness. But none of this gives us satisfaction, because ultimately what we are truly looking for, it sounds almost like too cliche, but the idea is the highest pleasure comes through love and relationship. And yet, in chapter 2, text 16, Krishna said we should identify between temporary and eternal things. So temporary relationships and eternal relationship, temporary love and eternal love. And we should not lament for that which is not eternal. We are lost within those conceptions of eternal bliss in a temporary realm, and it can never satisfy our thirst, our desire, so we go higher and higher and higher. But the final completion of the search, we learn to find that presence within. Where is Vrindavan? Where is Vrindavan? Vrindavan is in your heart. Vrindavan is in the earth. Vrindavan is in the spiritual world. Vrindavan is here in this world, Bhoma Vrindavan in this world, a Prakrit, transcendental Vrindavan. But the sages also realize Vrindavan in their heart. It's a place within where God is present in his own garden, and you are also present there. This is the difference between trying to be the enjoyer and trying to be the agent versus trying to be, if you can meditate on yourself as I describe it sometimes, you're a flower in God's garden. And you're praying that let my qualities, let my moods be a beautiful, fragrant scent that is experienced by Krishna. Let the fragrance of my being give pleasure to the absolute truth. Instead of everything around me is meant for my enjoyment, let myself give happiness to the absolute. And so we can perform that process of meditation. It's called Bhakti Yoga. Savai pungsam paro dharma yato bhakti radokshajay. That's called the highest dharma. Bhakti, or devotion to the adoksaj, that which is not limited to the material, that which is spiritual. Beyond the grasp of matter and the mind, conditioned to matter. Adoksaj, bhakti adoksajay, love and devotion for that supreme being. Yatma suprasiditi, and then that alone, that will give the atma or the self satisfaction. So we talk about self-realization, we should also talk about fulfillment and happiness and satisfaction. Krishna says in the chapter 2, the later texts, that there is no happiness without satisfaction or peace. And how does peace and satisfaction come about? It comes about from acceptance, detachment, no longer clinging to external things and trying to control them. We are not God, we are servants of God. So Krishna talks a lot about the self here in this section. This is all about the Atma, the self. But we're talking about the Gita is to help us achieve self-realization. How do we achieve self-realization? What is the process to achieve self-realization? We are not going on a journey outside to find ourselves, or to conquer, or to create, or to manifest, or to mold ourselves. Self-realization means we are already complete within. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The Upanishad, invocation to the Ishopanishad, says, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate. God is complete. Everything that comes from that complete whole is also complete. So all the different living entities, all spiritual beings, particles of divine consciousness, they are complete. You are complete. You are complete. You are complete. Nothing outside can complete you. You're trying to complete yourself from outside, but you're already complete. But yet we are suffering. So this is a difficult situation. But first we should understand that we, in our nature, in our essence, the soul is complete in its nature, eternally. Krishna says, never was there a time when you did not exist. nor in the future shall you ever cease to be. And the next verse, he continues to discuss this principle of the soul. In this verse 17, he says, know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. Right now, if I pinch your toe and you feel pain, your toe doesn't feel that. It's the self. If I praise you, you're hearing. Who is hearing that? The self. If I criticize you, who is feeling pain from that? The self. So that which is pervading the field of the body and the field of your external environment, that is the self. How do you see across the room? Your consciousness goes to as far as your senses can reach. And then you see it. That's why you say, oh, you can travel by the speed of the mind. Great sages can travel by the speed of the mind, because just because we are complete doesn't mean we are confined. Okay? So we are complete, but we are yet in Maya. You can be in prison as a complete person, but you still want to get out of prison. So the first thing I'm telling you is that self-realization doesn't mean you have to create something, or fashion something, or make something. Swarup Siddhi means the perfection of yourself. It is already Swarup, your form, your own form is already complete. It's just a question of achieving perfection. Swarup Siddhi means your own form is already complete. How can it become perfect? We give the example of a seed. A seed on a barren rock will not sprout, but the seed is complete. When it is planted in soil, fertile soil, given water, light, and air, then it will sprout and become, its true nature will be revealed. That's self-realization. The revelation of your truest nature through this process of the development of consciousness in the proper environment, then that will reveal what kind of seed you are. What is your nature? But it is complete. And so we should understand that completeness. And then we can figure out how to get out of the confines of samsara, which is like the barren rock, limiting our spiritual growth. So within samsara, what do? We find a holy place, a holy environment, good association, and that becomes a space like an oasis within a desert, where that seed can be planted and sprout and grow. And then the fragrance of that being can manifest it to its full extent and give pleasure to the reservoir of all bliss, Sri Krishna. Why am I talking about being complete? Because once you realize that you are complete, and self-realization isn't something that you need to find from somebody else. You don't have to imitate someone else. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to meditate on your own completeness and then think about what you can do with your time. We are here and we have always been here. So what do we choose to do with our time? It's a very beautiful meditation because it comes from a sense of peace. What we are trying to come to here in the Gita, before we can become a devotee, we must become peaceful. Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataeva Shanta. Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Shakali Ashanta. Krishna Bhakta Nishkam. Krishna's devotees have no material desire. Ataeva, therefore, Shanta, they are peaceful. Those who are desirous of sense gratification, of elevationism towards heavenly planets, or of mukti, of salvationism, they are all ashanta. The devotees are not aspiring for liberation because they are blissful in every moment in the pursuit of giving pleasure to the absolute truth. We can do that at any moment. Bhakti yoga, we don't have to wait for liberation to perform bhakti. So what we are doing here is we're not even trying to achieve self-realization. We're trying to serve the beloved Krishna from whichever platform we are at. We are not trying to achieve self-realization. We understand that self-realization is a natural process. Plant the seed, water the seed will sprout. In the meantime, what do? We serve our beloved. We recognize that the innermost essence, the self of the self, is God, and that is within. In that realm, the garden of the spirit is within. And We can find that within, and then everything outside of us can be favorable for that because we become detached. And we see the great mystic sages. No matter what is happening to them externally, they see it as like a play with God. Like sometimes Krishna is teasing the gopis. So they may be driving and it's a sunny day and all of a sudden a rainstorm comes. And we would think, darn it, I was going to do this. But a sage would think, oh, Krishna, why are you teasing me? You know I have this seva to do for you, and now you've brought this rainstorm? Is it Krishna doing it? Is it nature doing it? Doesn't matter. Because everywhere they look, they only see Krishna. You may be driving and a tree falls in front of your car and you're, Krishna, I was going to the store to buy something for you, and yet you're stopping me? Krishna, you're so naughty. You're so tricky. Everywhere they look, they just think Krishna. So they're not trying to achieve self-realization. They understand that the body is meant for the service of God. And the spirit, the body is a manifestation of the spirit. This is for the sage. For someone who's not the sage, then the body is like a prison. For the sage, the body is a gift. What should I do with my time? I should serve reality, the beautiful. But reality is not beautiful, we say. Reality has different faces, you could say, like that. But for the sage, for the devotee, because they actually are not looking outside, they are looking within, they achieve Atma Ramascha Munayo. They become self-satisfied. And realizing the pleasure within the self and within Krishna. So they aren't actually disturbed by the external environment. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he wasn't disturbed. From his childhood, he was blissful. So Krishna is teaching us this. And we should understand, this is not something that we can intellectually understand, but that's why we repeat it, and we repeat it. So this can become an idea. Why do we talk about surrender being so important? Because it's very, very difficult to accept an idea. Because we are all thinking that we know everything. But schools and things like that, they teach us. So the idea is we reiterate this because this is helping us come to an understanding or an acceptance of this idea that the soul and its nature is complete and whole. And self-realization is not the discovery of someone else. It's the development of your own nature to its highest perfection. We are not trying to achieve self-realization. We are trying to achieve Svarup Siddhi, the perfection of the self. It's different, right? We are not trying to realize that I am this body. We are trying to realize what is my truest nature. And as Krishna said in verse 16, chapter 2, that which is temporary is not eternal. That which is eternal is never temporary. So the self which is eternal is not just this body and this identity of this body within Maya. So what is my truest nature? Who am I really? This is what Krishna is teaching in this beginning area of chapter 2. Is that don't lament for material things which are temporary because you are eternal. And learn to see life from the point of view of a spiritualist, transcendentalist, a true philosopher. Krishna is advising like this. So when we come to this understanding, we can come to peace. Shanta. The first platform for spiritual life is Shantaras. Means the mood of peacefulness. Like Mangala Gita. Very peaceful. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. No problem. Very peaceful. Why? Because so there's another side of the equation, which is to achieve this self-realization. It is true, we need help. But that help doesn't come to make us complete. It comes to help us achieve perfection. Self-realization means Swarup Siddhi, which means your perfect nature, perfectly realized spiritual form. And that is realized within, and then in due course of time, that will the power of the consciousness and the will of God and the grace and the love of His divine potency, Sri Radha, manifests in the form perfectly suited to engage in the romance with the absolute truth. Whether as a friend, whether as a parent, that the idea of love, whether it's parental love or between friends or between lovers, the idea of the perfect love, and the power of the consciousness when it's free of attachment to these worldly things and free of stopping looking outside to fulfill ourselves within. When we recognize that we are complete and we are already complete, then by saintly association they help us achieve Swarup Siddhi, the perfection of our nature. And then that combination of Ladini Shakti, Swarup Shakti, that pleasure potency of the Lord, Sri Radha, she gives her mercy with Sambit Shakti. And then our truest form, which gives us the facility to perfectly express our love in relationship with Krishna, manifests. That is called Vastu Siddhi. First we'll achieve it within, we'll realize it. And then through the practice of spiritual life, we'll gradually lose taste for that which is obviously inferior. Imagine you realize your nature and yourself as free of old age and suffering, free of disease, able to anything. You're full of energy, full of light, full of joy. And you're experiencing that within, and then you come back to this body and it's going through these cycles of birth, death, old age, and disease, and you think, why am I here? I don't have to be here. But we're very attached to this now. But when you realize it within, you think, oh, I don't have to be in this body. There's a better form that I can be present in. That's my real form. Why don't I go there? And then that is when we achieve bhav, the perfection of our spiritual mood and our aspiration. And then that real Swarup Siddhi, Vastu Siddhi. Vastu means the soul, the nature, the essential nature. Vastu means that substance that is eternal, and that is eternal in its nature, indivisible, insoluble, indestructible, indivisible. That is the Vastu, and its Siddhi means its perfection. So the full blossoming of divine consciousness. And then we blossom into our spiritual form. So this is our purpose here. That is what we are striving forward towards in the process of self-realization. In our line as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, this is what our Vaishnavas teach. So first we come to the platform of peace, Shanti. Then we can practice spiritual life. Once we become peaceful, then we get to act in a way that is blissful, not simply trying to, like, what is most action in this world? People act so that they can get money, so that they can have happiness, or they act so that they can have pleasure, or they act for status. There's many causes of action in this world. Ultimately, they say without desire, there's no action. And in this world, everyone is conditioned by desires, vasanas, based on our samskars, our impressions, and our karma, our past actions. And we're all moving in the cycle of life. When we come to peace, we stop producing karma. We stop producing karma, which is keeping us on this wheel of material existence, birth, death, old age, and disease. We stop producing karma because we become shanta, peaceful. Like when everyone is at peace. What's the difference between war and peace? War means struggle. Peace is rest. Peace. Everyone can deeply breathe in. Shanti. This is peace. This is why do we see the Vedas, and when they teach us fire yagas, at the end we all pray, Om Shanti. See? Champak very Shanti now, right? This is a good sign. That's why I was saying in the beginning, I don't like classes. Classes means job, school, learning, so we can do something and be successful in life. In Hindi we say ganta. Ganta is like ringing a bell, right? But it means like useless. All this striving, all this struggle for what? Peace means to yawn. See, you become peaceful and you yawn and you're ready to sleep. That means you're relaxed. So this is not a class. This is a relaxation. See? Bali is also yawning. Very good. That means class is successful. No more classes. Class is for morning time. Nighttime is like a bedtime lullaby. A lullaby. As we lay ourselves down to rest. So we need to learn in spiritual life to be relaxed and to be peaceful. There's nothing to become. You're already complete. There's nothing to become. We're all trying to become something. And based on our desires and need for achievement, need for recognition, need for significance in our own eyes and in others. What is this? This is that's why we've been saying every day. Bhagavad Gita, the instructions begin from Krishna. Once the war is over, once Arjuna surrendered and came to peace. Even his peace was full of, in the beginning, turbulence. So when we first start coming to peace in spiritual life, we experience turbulence. Arjuna's beginning, when he was starting to achieve peace, was full of distress and anxiety and what to do. But this is called the dark night of the soul. You're shaking, and it's like you pop out of your material body. It's like astral traveling. You're so disturbed, you're so distressed, and you finally realize, I cannot solve this material problem, and then you just surrender to God. And then there'll still be turbulence, but eventually you can come to peace. Through surrender in the beginning is full of turbulence, because it's full of fear, because we haven't practiced it. We're used to achieving with our own strength everything, right? From childhood, we try to achieve with our own strength. We go to school to learn a career so we can survive. But once you can survive, once you have belonging relationship, when you want to achieve that highest self-realization, it's not based on striving anymore. No longer do we have to strive. Bhakti yoga in itself is complete. In itself, it is complete. So we come to peace. We no longer produce karma. Then what do? So we have to go from peace. What happens when you become peaceful? You're at rest. You relax. So it's very healthy. Mindfulness is based on meditating, based on people. Why is mindfulness so popular? Because people are so stressed in life. And you can just forget everything, and for 5 minutes just breathe deeply, hear some sounds of nature, hear some encouraging words, and relax. But bhakti means we have to go beyond shantaras. But first we have to achieve shantaras. First come to peace. Stop trying to make reality serve you and your desires. And instead recognize that I, in my own nature, am complete. I am a particle of that divine consciousness. My nature is to serve my beloved, the self of the self, the whole that I am the part of, in that fabric of everything that is. And I am here to serve that. And therefore God says, in the Bible it said, in the Gita it said, in other scriptures it said, you should see the divine within everything. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane gavi hasni suni chaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshana. See the Atma within everything. See the Spirit within everything. Bhagavatam 11.240 says, you should see everything as the expansion of the potency of God. And learn to honor it. The tree, the animal, the living being, the human being, the blade of grass. Honor it all. Then you are in the garden performing bhakti. This is not karma. You become a bhakta, a devotee. It means na karma bandhanam janma vaishnavanam cha vidyate. When you become a Vaishnav, you're no longer bound by karma. Simply chanting Krishna's name once frees you of all sinful reactions. Ek Krishnanam kore sarva papanas. And then prem, the seed, and the potency of prem causes the soul to begin to sprout, to germinate, to come up through the soil. Like I've been saying, spiritual life happens in the darkness, the dark night of the soul inside, right? Struggle. But then when we start to germinate, what helps that happen? This is called Ladini Shakti. Shuddha Shatva Visheshatma Prema Suryangsa Samyubhak Ruchi Viskidrama Shrinya Kidrisubhava Muchyate. Ultimately, for us, we are complete, but we are still in the prison of Maya. So we are dependent, as Sridhar Maharaj would say, on those angels, on our divine guardians, Krishna's messengers, Srimati Radhika's messengers, our Guru Varga, our gurus. They come and they give us this message. But more than the message, they give us relationship. They give us the mantra. They give us a chance to develop relationship, which is a mantra. And by meditating on this, the nature of the self, the nature of Guru, the nature of our Guru Varga and Radha Krishna, everything becomes revealed. And then, Shuddha Shatva Visheshatma Prema Suryangsa Samyubhak, that ray of love, of light, comes within this material samsara, which is of the nature of darkness. That ray of light illuminates our heart. Within that light is all joy. Ruchi bis is all taste and sweetness. When you meet Guru and Vaishnav's life, right, it's like your eyes open to a whole different dimension. And we try to water that, and then in that way the soul begins to develop more and more and more and more. So once we achieve the position of peace, from that point, we learn how to do bhakti. So the goal isn't peace. The goal is activity with love, but with a foundation of peace. Then we think, oh, what should I do today? We can wake up in the morning and we can choose how we would like to. And we choose based on what? We no longer know what to do. Sometimes when people come to peace for a while, they become lost. What am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do? Do you know what to do? Champak, you know what to do? What am I supposed to do? We can come to peace and then we think, oh no, what am I supposed to do? We're so used to doing things for ourselves, to be happy ourselves, to use the world for our own enjoyment. We're so used to that we come to peace and then we think, oh, what am I supposed to do now? Krishna says, 247, Karmannivadikaraste mafaleshu. People are so attached to karma, doing work, duty. I'm supposed to do duty. People say the essence of the Gita is duty. But for whom? For what? For what? Why? Why are you doing? Why are you doing? So bhakti means Krishnendriya pritivansha, dare prem. Love, it's very simple. Love means the effort, the endeavor, and the mood to please your beloved Sri Krishna. I want to please you, and so I act. My soul is energy, potency, consciousness, and I want to act in a way with a mood, an endeavor to please you. That is called bhakti yoga. So it doesn't produce karma. We come out of the cycle of karma, action, reaction. So it said for the devotee, we are already as if liberated, as good as liberated for a devotee. We don't need liberation. Liberation is guaranteed. Guaranteed. It will come. But we need to go past the sense of this is what happens sometimes in life. We become peaceful, but then we don't know what to do. But the goal is not non-doing. So once we become peaceful, then we should continue the process of Sharanagati and think, how can I engage my energy? I have life, I have energy, what should I do? I should do something. Like someone will think, oh, I'll make something very nice for Krishna. I'll cook this preparation and offer it to him. I'll do some seva according to my qualification. This is bhakti yoga. So we want to be engaged in bhakti. Then we can achieve rasa, which means flavor, taste, sweetness, and love. Not just worship. We don't want to perform worship. We want to perform, there's different kinds of worship. A ritual or an external manifestation of an offering of love. When you've offered your heart and soul, then you use your senses, your body, your mind, everything to try to perfect or manifest that offering. So this is our process of bhakti yoga. And it's a whole different mentality. So we want to work forward with that mentality. This is our ashram life. We're here in the ashram. This is the spiritual center. One more thing to mention, I think is important. Because life is full of change, transformation. As we're going through our internal transformation, we also have our life to maintain. Right? So we should not be impractical. We should not be unrealistic. And also we should learn to distinguish between our higher self and our lower self. And not feel bad. Right? Sometimes, like we're discussing something a very elevated concept, right? A very exalted concept. But then we come back and we're like, but I'm just, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to play a game, I want to watch a movie. These kind of things may happen. That's okay. Understand there's a difference between your highest self and your lowest self. And then you can watch the play going on. This is just a drama, play, function of the past karmas playing themselves out, but I don't identify with it. Even it may be going through its motions. I understand this is just the game of life of the material body playing its course, and then in a practical way I can try to be in an environment that's conducive to my spiritual advancement. There's different ashrams, married life, celibate life, according to our age, according to what's best for us, our work and things like that, we do. No problem. This is not sinful, this is righteous. It's called dharma. From a Vedic point of view, if we're living properly, everything is spiritual, everything is dharma. Marriage is dharma, monk life is dharma, but only if we're practicing dharma. Right? So this is something to understand, is that's why it's so important to hear from the proper sources, because then we can understand how to live in a proper way that is best for ourselves and that is also supportive of others' spiritual growth. That's why if we look in this world, we're not such crazy, we're not spiritualists that don't accept, like Tulasi Devi is here and we care for her as a plant. Devotees, we are devotees of the devotees. We don't just worship a deity, we worship the deities of the devotees. So we are practical and we are engaged with matter because we can see the spirit within it. That's something that's also very important to note here. And we'll conclude with this idea and then do a kirtan. People have this idea that, I'm the soul, is it really true? I'm hearing about this, I'm eternal. It just sounds like a pretty idea that is meant to console us in times of danger and difficulty, and our loved one has passed away, but we think, anyway, they're eternal, they're in heaven, I get to see them. But we should understand, even the law of physics teaches us that matter is also imperishable. All that is there, it's called the pradhan, the aggregate of the material ingredients. It's all eternal. It goes through states of transformation. The firewood becomes a fire, and that fire disappears. But where does it go? It's not lost. Like a pot of water, you can boil it until all the water's gone. And a fool would say, you killed the water. Why did you kill the water? You boiled it until it was dead. No, it's in the clouds and it'll come back down in the form of rain. No problem. So Krishna's saying like that to Arjuna, don't lament. The soul is imperishable, and even matter is always in a state of transformation. So there's nothing to lament about. But even these material bodies, it's said even at the end of this cosmic creation, which lasts, it's considered, there's many devastations, there's 3 or 4 levels of devastations, but on the grandest scale, it lasts about 310 trillion years. And the entire cosmic manifestation, what we would call the multiverse, right? All of that withdraws back within the form of God. This is also one level of the Godhead. There are many levels. Karadakshayi Vishnu. The farthest away from the material world without also being completely in the transcendental plane. Garbhadakshayi Vishnu, Shiradakshayi Vishnu, Karadakshayi Vishnu. They're God related to this world somehow. But the ultimate Godhead is beyond this world completely. Krishna is beyond this world completely. But Karadakshayi Vishnu, all the aggregate of material energy, everything comes and resides within him. It's not destroyed. And when the universe again begins with his exhalation, all the universes manifest again, then everything again assumes form. There's the Pradhan, there's Prakriti. So the point is that even that is eternal. What to speak of the spirit, which is higher. The spirit or consciousness is higher than matter. So if matter cannot be destroyed, why would spirit be destroyed? It's not possible. It will transform until you achieve self-realization. So that is why we're studying this Bhagavad Gita. We'll read one verse. One more, we already read 17. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. So the body goes through transformation, but the spirit is eternal. He who thinks that the living entity is the slayer, or that he is slain, does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self neither slays not, nor is slain. For the soul there is neither birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, all-pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is complete. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So how are you trying to change yourself or become something else? You are complete. Self-realization means your nature is complete. Why are you trying to change it? If, however, you think that the soul is perpetually born and always dies, still you have no reason to lament. So at this point, the narrative Krishna shifts. And he talks about from verse 12 here to verse 26 or 25, he's talking about the soul is eternal, everlasting. And then after this, he starts talking about different kinds of duties, how it's very difficult to understand the soul. Here in text 29, he says, some look on the soul as amazing, some describe the soul as amazing, some hear of the soul as amazing, while others, even after hearing about the soul, cannot understand it at all. People say, oh, what is this soul talk? But nowadays, more and more people are becoming spiritually minded. But Krishna again says, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore, you should not grieve for any creature. Instead, you should try to help. So then he starts talking about duties, and then he starts talking about bhakti yoga, and many important topics coming up. So we'll end with that today. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Something you were speaking on, I just didn't really understand.
Yeah.
You were talking about when things are happening, you can see it like your higher self and your lower self, and you can see things that are happening kind of going on as like karma or like a play. When would we be thinking that? Like, what? Okay, for example, if I'm doing something I know that's like unfavorable for my bhakti, like I'm speaking prajalpa, and do I like? Would I apply that then and be like, oh, I'm speaking prajalpa, I'm like, know that this is just like my karma, like enacting.
I'm not saying it's your karma. I'm just saying, it's not so beneficial to always be beating up on yourself.
Yeah.
And also, it's not necessarily beneficial to try to be a pure devotee when you're not. You know, not everyone is, if you're practicing as a monk, it's a different code, but and it's very favorable for spiritual life to avoid these things. But Krishna also talks with Arjuna about how difficult it is to control the mind, how difficult it is, how it's like a raging forest fire, like it's unconquerable wind. So the point is, what I'm saying is not to give in to these things. I'm just saying when things will inevitably occur, if you can understand that you are distinct from it, then you also don't become conditioned to this karma. So I'm not recommending it, but I'm saying your life is, you have a long life ahead of you. And you have to be performed in so many different things. You cannot predict necessarily. And we want to become pure devotees. But how can we become pure devotees? That's our topic. How can you become self-realized? That's our topic. So what I'm saying, what I've observed over many years is that it's not favorable to always be so identified with this lower self that you're always absorbed in it and contemplating it, and I'm not good enough, and I'm bad, and I have this habit and that habit and this habit. Gurudev would say, don't chase your shadow, don't chase your tail. So you may not always be able to be at your most enlightened self. And it's not a recommendation to go out and perform all these things that aren't favorable. But it's also to say that Rupa Goswami says, devotees, you shouldn't criticize them. It's said like bubbles foam in mud on the surface of a transcendental river. So these things are superficial, external. They are not you. That's the point I'm trying to make. Prahlad Maharaj said that there is no sin for the soul. Atma Nitya Shuddha. The soul is eternal and pure. So there's no such thing as sin for the soul. We are conditioned by ignorance. The root sin is avidya, ignorance. And then we do so-called sinful things which give negative results and more suffering, or we do pious things which give beneficial results, which are also a form of bondage. Heaven is bondage, hell is bondage within the material system of duality. So really all I'm saying is understand yourself as distinct from this. That you are something more. You are something divine. And it is not possible for that divine soul to be contaminated. It is only possible that it is covered. It is confined, it is covered, it is imprisoned. But that soul is there. Okay? Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, I was going to say it becomes a lot harder to want to perform loving service to Krishna when I'm getting really down on myself. And so if I'm becoming less identified with it, then it opens me up more to be able to perform service.
Yeah. All right, so we'll continue Bhagavad Gita. And I know this is not all just direct Bhagavad Gita, but it's hopefully things that are helpful to people on the spiritual path. I know these things have helped me. And we'll continue reading and discussing. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhu